I wanted to voice my approval of Ted's latest video here regarding, the whole Social Security issue and beyond, basically. So, I think, Ted, you have it completely right in terms of what Social Security is actually all about. In essence, this is an insurance policy for old age so that you don't become destitute. So all of us have paid into this. And of course, Wall Street would love nothing more than to privatize the entire system in order, to make, let's say, your retirement more profitable. In other words, just invest it into the stock market because ostensibly you're going to make more gains more quickly than through more secure investments, which are not as risky. And most people on this planet cannot afford too much risk taking unless they've already got a stash of cash stashed away on which they can live to start with. So yes, this whole Social Security scheme and it chaining it to the CPI, basically the Consumer Price Index, is bogus. It is complete bogus. Because if nothing else, chaining it to the CPI would actually make it an entitlement program, when in actuality it isn't. It's simply an insurance policy for regular people so that they don't end up completely destitute in old age. Now, I'm not talking about disability insurance, the other part of Social Security, SSI. That's separate from that, although equally under attack, I might add. But this chaining CPI to future benefits is complete bogus. This is what the Pete Peterson wrecking crew, I might add, was telling people from the very start. And this started 20 years ago. What this is all about is a Trojan horse for younger people to believe that Social Security is completely broke, that it won't be there for them unless they privatize it eventually. Now, what happens is this. Let's say this comes about and Social Security is completely privatized so that your gains at the end, presumably, will be greater than through Social Security investments. Okay? So what happens if the stock market crashes when you are about to retire? Let's say 25, 30 years from now. Well, guess what? You're shit out of luck when that happens. There is nothing for you to fall back on if and when that happens. And these people are trying to make you believe that if you just invest in the stock markets, because over a few years it may gain you more money in the end, is a complete fallacy. Because if the stock market collapses just when you're about to retire, you have absolutely nothing to fall back on. You will be completely wiped out. And this is precisely why Social Security came about in the first place. Now, in regards to Margaret Thatcher, now, I'm not going to make this, a personal issue with this woman, okay? All I can tell you that probably there is no excuse for her policies overall, none. I don't have to express my personal hatred for somebody. That really is, it isn't even. It's beneath me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, somebody could have really good qualities, family qualities. You could be a perfect parent. You could be just really a loving family person. And you could love your dog and you could do everything right within your own little sphere, okay? The problem with Margaret Thatcher was that she extended her ideology onto everybody else. And I find to this day, and from the very beginning, her ideology and her political stances abhorrent. Not only did this woman destroy the working class in her own country, but she actively participated in destroying the working classes everywhere else on the globe. Aside from, destroying collective bargaining in England, she also participated in destroying collective bargaining anywhere else. But the worst thing of all is that this woman supported some of the worst dictatorships on the planet. This is saying something, okay? We're talking about the dictatorship under Suharto in Indonesia, which killed hundreds of thousands of people. In addition to that, she supported Pinochet to the very end. This is somebody who had his political opponents not only killed outright and assassinated, but also supporters were tortured to death. This is a policy that Margaret Thatcher supported. And, to add to all of this, which of course makes sense in Thatcher terms, she also called Nelson Mandela a terrorist, while she herself was supporting the apartheid regime in South Africa all the way. Only later did she have to acquiesce towards more democratic means. But what was going on in Chile and in Indonesia, this is what she called democracy in action. This woman I hold this woman in utter contempt. And it has nothing to do with her, being some family mother. I hold her ideas and her ideologies in utter contempt, and I always will. This woman stood for injustice around the globe, and she was celebrated for it. Celebrated. There's no cause for celebration at all. None. In fact, her legacy is living on to this day. And this is what this legacy has brought, is the utter contempt of justice, of rationality, and the banking sector exploded because of her policies. And it was based on lies. Based on lies. While ordinary people were thrown under the damn bus and bamboozled to believe the shit. I will add here that I hold the Labour government of the UK and the Democratic Party here in the United States in equal contempt, because they acquiesced. They felt that, let's just give in a little bit, and it was all about political expediency. So don't think that I am voting, that I would vote for Labour or for the Democrats in the United States anymore either. In fact, I would call that even worse. I would call that not standing on any principles at all. At all. That doesn't mean I'm going to side with Thatcherites and the global financial elite in the future simply because, they're clobbering up everything and they're now winning. No, that does not mean that doesn't mean I'm going to do that. Not at all. But yes, I am. What am I going to say? I'm glad Thatcher is dead. It doesn't matter at this point whether she's dead or alive. Her legacy, her financial fraud, and all of the stuff that she was in favor of is very much alive. And this is what we should be against. It has nothing to do with, with some dead person in a casket. It's symbolic. Yeah, it's symbolic. All right. But, we should be against the very policies which are very much in action today. That's what we should be against. And yes, it has to do with Thatcher and with Reagan and with Democrats and with Clinton and this whole NAFTA bullshit. These global agreements, which are absolutely damaging to uplifting the whole of society globally. It has nothing to do with uplifting anything. It is basically what it boils down to is getting down to the lowest common denominator because it's cheap and it can be easily achieved. And I would like to add, we here in the United States are very lucky. We are very lucky because we still have all these luxury goods going on. But we need to contemplate at the same time that all these luxury goods that we are enjoying here in the West are built on the misery of others. And in order to uplift everyone, we should actually, the working people, in other words, us, we should be asking and be in solidarity with working people around the world, rather than, asking ourselves, how can we be more competitive? The reason this whole competitive question came up is because the financial elites have told you that, well, in order to be competitive with the global labor market, basically what you have to do is to scale down your aspirations rather than bringing them up. Rather than being in solidarity with the people overseas who are taking over your jobs. No, you have to fight against them, and you have to be against them because they're undercutting your jobs. Well, of course they're undercut your jobs if we don't stand for uplifting everyone. This is a complete race to the bottom in terms of every working person on the planet. And this is what the global financial elite calls equalization. This is just so wrong. So wrong. We as Westerners cannot consume 25% of the Earth's resources without giving some of it back. Nobody needs a new iPhone and every year. Nobody needs to, watch the latest technology, the latest movie on your latest TV screen every single minute. While people are starving around the globe. On the other hand, we should we should be in favor of these people who are working for those slave wages to make demands on the elites in order to bring up their own lifestyles and in a sustainable way. And the sustainable way is not going to be achieved through oil. Oil is a finite resource. We all know this by now. And this is why the elites are pushing to take over the entire economy in the Middle East and elsewhere in order to extract those last resources. How idiotic is that? How idiotic.